Now that I don't want you here, it's something about the way you stare into my eyes. I know that I don't make things clear. I fall for you every time I try to resist. We can get away. Chase beach views, living every day. All I wanna hear is an everything.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be recreating this dress that you can see on your screen. So if you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. So I'll start by cutting my half length for the front. Since this is an off-shoulder dress, I'm going to take out 6 inches before I start placing my point. So I'll take out the 6 inches because this dress does not have a shoulder. I'll take the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches, and the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is also my half length, which is 16 inches. So I went ahead to rule straight line across those points. To get my chest line, I went up by 2 inches from my bust point, which gave me 8 inches. I also went ahead to rule a straight line across that point. The next measurement I'll take is half of my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7 inches. I placed it on my shoulder line, and on the bust point I went ahead to take my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 10 inches. I added 1.5 inches for stitching allowance. On my waistline, I went ahead to take my waist circumference divided by 4. I added 1 inch for that and 1.5 inches for stitching allowance. After doing that, I went ahead to connect all these points together. After doing that, guys, the next thing I did was to curve out my armhole. So I connected the dot on my shoulder line to meet the dot on my chest line in a slanted form. The next thing I went ahead to do was to take in my dart. So I placed my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 4 inches. I placed it on my waistline. Still taking out the 6 inches, just like I did earlier, I went ahead to connect into a straight line. On my bust line, I came down by 1 inch and I ruled a straight line to meet the point that I have on my waistline. After doing that, I'm going to take half an inch on both sides of the straight line, and then I'll use my ruler to connect the mark below my bust point. After doing that, guys, I went ahead to cut. So we are done with the front pattern. So I'm going to place this on my fabric and I'll add 1 inch to the base and half an inch to the upper side, which I'm going to use as my stitching allowance. So remember that your center front should be on fold. I went ahead to cut out 2. I'll be using 1 piece as my lining and 1 piece as the main fabric. I also went ahead to notch my dart just like you see me doing. After doing that, I'm going to remove my pattern paper and I'll open it up for you guys to see. So the next thing I'm going to do is to head over to my sewing machine and I'm going to take my dart. I've already notched it, so I know where to take in my dart. After taking in my dart, I'm going to place my fabric right sides on each other. I'll sew the neckline, the armhole area and the sides. After doing that, I'm still going to use the pattern paper to cut out the back. So I went ahead to add 1.5 inches to the center back, which is going to serve as my zipper allowance, and I added 1 inch to the base and half an inch to the upper area, just like I did for the front. And then I'm going to go ahead and split my zipper allowance open. But before I do that, I'm going to go down by 3 inches from the center back because I want a deep neckline for the back. So I'll go down by 3 inches and I'll connect from this armhole area to meet the 3 inches mark, just like you see me doing. So you don't have to do this, is because I want the back to be deep. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. After cutting, I'll go ahead and split my zipper allowance open. I'll also go ahead and cut out lining piece for the front. So I'll be using my fabric as my lining, and then I'll place my pattern paper on my fabric and I'll notch my dart so that I will know where to take in my dart when I'm sewing. And then I'll go ahead and split my zipper allowance open. I'll also go ahead and cut out lining piece for the back. But if your fabric is not enough, you can use your bias tape to just pipe your neckline. So this is what I have for the back. So let's go ahead and cut out the skirt part. So guys, I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into 4. And for the back, I went ahead to leave 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance. So my fabric is folded into 4. The back has a zipper allowance. So guys, remember this is a dress and we already took out 16 inches for our dress, which is the half length. So to determine the length of your dress, you are going to minus your half length. Mine is 16 inches. So the length of my dress is going to be 57 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start placing my measurements. So the upper part of this skirt area is my waistline, so I'm going to place my waist circumference divided by 4, which is 7 inches. I'll add 1 inch for that and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. So I'm going to place it like this: 7 inches and then 2.5 inches, which is 1 inch for that and 1.5 inches as my stitching allowance. The next measurement I'll take is the distance from my waist to my hip, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate that and I'll rule a straight line across. So that's my hip line and that is my waistline. So on the hip line, so remember the measurements I'm taking is after the zipper allowance. I'm not taking the measurements on the zipper allowance. I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4 and I'll add 1.5 inches as my stitching allowance. So I'm going to connect the mark on the waistline to meet the mark on the hip line using my curved ruler, just like you see me doing. On the base of the skirt, I'm going to reduce the measurement that I have on my hip line by 2 inches. So the measurement I have on my hip line is 12 inches. I'll reduce it by 2. So I marked 10 inches on the base of my skirt. So I'm going to go ahead and connect from the hip line to meet the base of the skirt, just like this. The next thing I'll do is to take in my dart. So I'll place my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 4 inches, and then I'm going to go down by 3 inches, which is going to be the length of my dart, and I'll take half an inch on both sides of the straight line. I'll go ahead and notch my dart like this. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. After cutting, I'll also go ahead and split my zipper allowance open. I forgot to mention earlier, I'm using a crepe fabric and I'm using 3 yards for this tutorial. So you can use 2.5 yards. I'm using 3 yards because I want the sleeves to be massive. Guys, after cutting, this is what I have. I have 2 pieces for the back and 1 piece for the front. I'll go ahead and take in my dart for both the front and the back. So guys, after taking in my dart for the front, this is what I have. I also went ahead to turn my half length with my lining and I went ahead to take in my dart. I'm sure by now some of you are wondering why I've not cut the center front open, just like you can see on the thumbnail. So I'm making this dress for a client and she said I should not put the opening, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Okay, so you go up on your center front by 1 inch. It depends on how deep you want it to be. If you want it to be very open, you come in like this by 2 inches, but if you don't want it to be very open, just go in by another 1 inch and then connect in a circular form, just like you see me doing. Then you are going to repeat the same process for the other side. So I went in like this by 2 inches. So if you don't want it to be too open, go in by just 1 inch and then go up by 1 inch and then connect like this. Once you open it up, this is what you are going to have. Then go ahead and cut it out. After cutting, you are going to turn your lining and your fabric to the wrong side and then you are going to close it up. After closing it up, you go ahead and notch it so that everything will be relaxed. Then you iron and then you turn it inside out. So before you do that, don't sew the 2 sides of your half length yet. Okay, after sewing, then you are going to turn it inside out. I hope you understand this explanation. If you don't, I'll be in the comment section. After sewing close the circular effects, what you are going to do is to join the skirt part and the half length, making sure that your dart matches. Okay, then you are going to sew close using the 1 inch that we left as our stitching allowance. For the back half length, I went ahead to cut out the lining piece and I used it to turn everything inside out. So I'm also going to place the back half length to the skirt part and then I'm going to pin. After pinning, I'll go ahead and sew. I've gone ahead to do that. Okay, I've sewn it together. The next thing I'll do is to sew my zipper to the zipper allowance. I also went ahead to iron my slits because I'll be adding slits to this dress. I've also gone ahead to sew the skirt part and the half length of the front, and this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do after sewing my zip in place is to place the front and the back piece together, just like you see me doing, and I'm going to shape it. I'll place my bust circumference on the bust line, I'll place my waist circumference on the waistline, and my hip circumference on the hip line, and I'll sew everything close. So the next thing we are going to do is to cut out our sleeves. So guys, this is the fabric for my sleeves. The wideness of this fabric is 53 inches and the length of my sleeves is 18 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this fabric into 2 equal halves. After doing that, I'm going to bring the armhole area of my half length and I'll place it on the opened edge of this fabric, just like you see me doing, and then I'll go ahead and just trim out what I have on the armhole. I'll trim it on the fabric. After doing that, guys, I'm going to head over to my sewing machine and then I'm going to create channel that I'm going to pass my elastic band through. So I'll be passing elastic band through the base of the sleeves and also the upper part of the sleeves. Okay, so I'm going to open the fabric for my sleeves up like this, and then I'm going to fold it into 2, just like you see me doing. So in order to conceal the rough edges of the fabric, I'll fold once and then I'll fold over, making sure that what I'm folding is wide enough for my elastic band to pass through. So it depends on the length of the wideness of the elastic band that you'll be using. So guys, I'm done sewing both the base and the upper part of the sleeve, so I'm going to pass my elastic band through it. So the elastic band on the shoulder area is 12 inches and the one that I'll be fixing on the base is 8 inches. After fixing, I'll go ahead and hold this one on this end down, and then I'll pull the elastic band to the other end and I'll also hold it down like this. After doing that, I'll also insert the elastic band to the base. I'm done fixing the elastic band on both ends. What I'm going to do is to place the sleeves together, just like you see me doing, and then I'm going to sew on a straight line to meet the base, leaving the armhole area open because that's where I'm going to attach to the armhole area of my dress. So I'm going to sew all the way to the end of the sleeves. After sewing, I went ahead to turn my sleeves over to the right side, and this is what I have. So guys, this is the dress. I've gone ahead to sew the zipper in place, and I also went ahead to shape the dress, and I also went ahead to sew my slit in place. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to hem the base of the dress, and then I'm going to attach the sleeves to the dress. So I'll bring in my sleeves and I'll open the armhole area of my dress, and then I'm just going to match the armhole area of the sleeves and that of the dress together, and I'll go ahead and sew. After sewing, guys, this is what you should have. And yeah, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you are not a subscriber. If you have any question, leave it in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next one.